How you going, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Fair Dinkum Podcast. Today in the studio we had Louis Phillips. He's a social media influencer. He talks about all things running, and we spoke about his journey towards his first official marathon that he did last week. Spoke about podcasting and how he became a full-time creator. Enjoy the episode.
Which isn't good for your first marathon.
Yeah,
and then on top of that, there was crazy headwinds. It was raining, and it was just like it. A normal marathon's 42 Ks. This one was 44. So they just threw a few extra on at the end. So it was absolutely brutal. By the end, I was like hallucinating. I was seeing like I was looking at people thinking they were like old school friends. Like, oh, what are they doing here? Like, oh, what's that person doing here? And I like snapped out of it. Like, no, they're not. They're not.
Fair dinkum.
I think there's no better way to start off, but we want to know, how was your sleep? Did you sleep well?
How was it? Good lads. Love it. I didn't sleep well, actually. No, I've had had a shocker. Since I ran a marathon on Sunday, so it was a lot of training up until that point, grinding, locking in. Every night I'm getting 8 hours sleep, like making sure I'm waking up at the same time. And then I said, you know what, after the marathon, I'm going to kick back, eat like crap, sleep pretty badly, have a couple of beers, and I've done exactly that. So I've kind of been on a bit of a 4 or 5 day bender. So I'm in my best form for you today.
Yeah, I can imagine guilt-free week.
Yeah, exactly.
But take us through the marathon you just ran. Was that your first official marathon, would you say?
Yeah, first marathon. Brutal. Absolutely brutal. I said the second I finished the race, I'm never doing this again, but I'm saying I'll do another one.
You just needed a nice sleep and then
exactly.
I'll actually do it.
Oh, mate, it took it out of me. So the marathon was the Great Ocean Road running race, and it's like the Great Ocean Road is really hilly. So there's like 500 metres of elevation, which isn't good for your first marathon. And then on top of that, there was crazy headwinds. It was raining, and it was just like it. A normal marathon's 42 Ks. This one's 44. So they just threw a few extra on at the end. So it was absolutely brutal. By the end, I was like hallucinating. I was seeing like I was looking at people thinking they were like old school friends. Like, oh, what are they doing here? Like, oh, what's that person doing here? And I like snapped out of it. Like, no, they're not. They're not here, mate. You're just dehydrated and very tired. So
that's insane.
I kind of crawled through at the end. And then, you under fatigue, you feel so odd. I got like hugely emotional to some extent, just because you're so like knocked out. I was super dehydrated, obviously, and just like the 4 hours after that marathon, just kind of feeling my body slowly come back to life was a good feeling. But yeah, I'd recommend it to anyone doing a marathon. It's such like a feat. It's such like doing a physical feat like that and pushing your body to a point that you didn't know you could take it, I think is like so beneficial.
Yeah, for sure. So what was going through your head during the actual marathon? Because obviously that's 2 different battles.
Yeah, I mean, you can kind of break it up. Like the first 30 Ks, walk in the park. Most people can do it, I reckon. It's like if you obviously have the base fitness, but like first 30 Ks, pretty chill. I reckon 30 Ks and 1 meter, everything just plummets. Brick wall.
Yeah.
You just like, you realize, oh, I've still got like, for me in that case, it was 14 Ks to go. And it's like, you're weighing that up, you're doing the numbers in your head.
Always, checking your watch constantly.
Checking your watch, especially after that 30, you're checking your watch. Oh, I must have done 2 Ks here, and you've done 500 meters.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, God.
Comes a numbers game after that.
A numbers game. And then it's like, because I've somehow pigeonholed myself into being the running guy, it's like, well, I can't stop. So unless I literally felt my hammy grab as well. I thought I did my hammy, and it's like, I don't care what happens. I'm not going to stop because it's just like a non-negotiable.
And for sure as well, you've been working your content with, I guess, your audience and stuff up to this time.
Yeah.
So you've got that added feeling of, you've got that added feeling of not just quitting because of like the mental fatigue that you're going through. Also, you've got like content to actually produce at the same time.
You have an audience watching.
Audience watching and brands bloody paying me. If you can't run a marathon, mate, what are you doing? And the running community is toxic as like from what I've found, they don't like a newcomer, and they don't like a little kind of 170 centimetre tall meatball running a marathon and then also giving advice. So
it's like an elite group almost,
mate, feral, But I was running the race, and I'd have people who watch my content just come flying past me, like, love your tips, Louis. Mate, I need your tips.
And how, like, so you didn't do it alone, right? How was that?
Didn't do so.
Did you do it alone or did you do it with a few friends?
I didn't. I was lucky enough that I did it with 2 other blokes, and they're about like 6'5", both of them, and it's a really windy course, so it's like quite selective with who I brought with me. Yeah. So I just put them in front of me.
The drag.
Yeah, exactly. And they'd break the wind, and I'd just sit behind them the whole way. So I did it with 2 others, and I honestly couldn't have done it without them.
Because surely that really helped you on the way, just pushing towards the end.
Yeah, we had a goal pace as well, so. We wanted to keep our race, the marathon to be under 42K, under 3.5 hours, which means you need to do a pace of 4 minutes 58, which is quite doable over 10Ks and so on. But over 42, you're starting to like redline a little bit. Sure. So it was handy, like when I was feeling bad, someone else was feeling good, you kind of push each other on, and vice versa.
Did you listen to anything during the marathon?
So first 30Ks I did no headphones or no listening.
Was there a reason behind that?
Yeah, just like because I could reward myself with music come 30Ks. I knew it was going to get really tough.
Sure.
Brand new Apple Watch.
Yeah.
Really great piece of kit.
No more Garmin?
No more Garmin, but I put the headphones in thinking it'd all just connect up, and I didn't download something.
Oh.
I got 3 songs. I'm 32Ks in.
This guy's prepared.
I've had 3 songs, and it's Dean Lewis. Do you guys know Dean Lewis? No. Oh, boys, it'll make you cry. It's like the most down, like guitar music, like it's breakup music.
Yes, I was going to ask.
And so I'm sitting there like, oh, this is really sad. I can't change it. And then it just all cut out on me.
Yeah, for sure.
So
that's probably when you started to see your old schoolmates.
Yeah, literally
you're mistaken.
I saw something. So yeah, the music wasn't ideal, but I noticed through the marathon it was really like I'd be running. I'd be like, oh, I'm feeling really good here. Like all of a sudden, and then it just gets taken away from you. It's
sure.
Like the rug pulled out from underneath you, and you're like, I feel so bad. And then if you just keep going through and pushing through it, then you feel good again, and then you feel bad again. So you just got to keep like going until you get that good feeling, and then expect it's going to get bad again.
I feel like nutrition does play a big role, but then I feel like it gets to a point where nutrition is just out the window and it becomes all mental.
Yeah.
How
100%.
was it in terms of nutrition preparation?
Yeah, my preparation is pretty good. So before the marathon, you want to have I think I had about 600 grams of carbs. So it's like a huge amount.
How did you get that much carbs?
Mate, LCM bars, like rice,
Yeah.
just smashing them. Like
Everyone keeps recommending LCM bars to us.
In the gym, have an LCM bar, bang, you got heaps of energy. But it's like quick digestible carbs.
Was that a footy player recommended to you? Because a lot of AFL players recommended it to us.
Yeah, they do. Oh, really?
Yeah. Which you didn't expect.
I thought it was a joke. Some guy that we know whose mates are a footy player would tell us one of his diets consisted of an LCM bar.
Yeah.
And we used to laugh him off.
Yeah,
at least I didn't take it seriously.
Not at all, bro. LCM.
Yeah.
I thought it was for his son.
Literally, they're so easy to eat as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of those and pasta and like a bit of pizza as well, but just kind of trying to stock up on it. So I got to the start line on the Sunday and like I felt so heavy. You know, first 30Ks I felt pretty horrible. But what it does mean is in the latter stages of the run, you're not going to cramp up. You're not going to like hit the wall, which is the saying. On top of that, I had like these energy gels. They're really good, but I cooked it because what you should do is have like your first. So you're meant to have one every half an hour. So it's like 8 or so in a race. It's like very rough on the guts. But the first kind of 30Ks, you want to be having kind of just basic energy gels, which don't have caffeine in them. Yeah. All of mine were caffeine, so it's 100 milligrams of caffeine every time.
Yeah,
I came out. Yeah, it was. I think I missed a few that weren't like caffeine, but I came out had like 650 or 700 milligrams of caffeine by the end. I was like shaking.
Yeah.
Wait,
so
too much.
It's almost as much coffee as him.
Yeah.
But also having it at different times. Like there's people that take pre-workout that take like 500 milligrams. Like there's a new Ghost pre-workout that came out. It's like 450, 500 milligrams of caffeine. But then taking it over like 5 hour span or 3-4 hours, that's that's a killer on the body.
You're just like putting it in the whole time, and then like by the end, I just felt like frazzled, you know, like anxious and over caffeinated, but then also no energy. So
okay, that's the reason for not having the caffeine. Because I was going to ask, I was a bit confused about why you couldn't have the caffeine side of it. Is it because of the empty stomach as well?
Well, not necessarily. Like the idea is you want to preserve the caffeinated gels towards the end, because then if you're not having caffeine and then you have caffeine, then it like kicks you.
The jittery feeling.
You get more energy. Whereas if you're just going one, all caffeine, then it's like you kind of kill that kick. That makes sense.
No, that definitely does make sense.
Did you watch a lot of Nick Bear before that? Are you a big Nick Bear fan?
No, I haven't watched any of his stuff. A lot of people have said I'm like him, or I copy some of his stuff.
He's getting ahead of himself. The guy goes, you watch a video, he'll be like, yeah, I'm going for a 16-mile run, like 25, 30 Ks, and then I'll go for an hour swim, and I'll do 3-4 hours on the bike. Literally like each day, But watch some of his content. You enjoy what he does.
For sure.
I've heard of him,
But a lot of educational stuff like you. It's like about like literally the guide to become a runner, triathlon, anything. He's just giving like knowledge.
Yeah.
That's his form of content.
I love that hybrid style of training. Like that's very much what I'm into, is kind of being able to lift weights and be strong, have a 100 kilo bench or plus, and then also be able to run a marathon and stuff.
Yeah, like a full-round athlete rather than a specific.
Just like health in general,
Yeah.
I think is really important to me. And, when I younger years, like 18 through to 22 maybe, I had a real big emphasis on just trying to get as big as possible. Yeah. Obviously, I'm, sat there next to Gab, like I can't bloody catch the bloke. He's huge. Sure. So I was, like once I got through that kind of body dysmorphic mindset, and I've been able to kind of forget about trying to put on as much size as possible, I'm a whole lot more happier and thus healthier.
Yeah, for sure. You want to be a full-round happy athlete. I was going to ask, so obviously you've been pigeonholed into like sort of like the running guy and whatnot. What got you into the whole running field? Because it's one of those things people think, like even myself personally, like it's the last thing that I want to do to have enjoyment when it comes to like sports and whatnot. So like what kick-started you into that field?
I think running in general and just going for a run, I had a really negative connotation towards it, especially through playing footy.
Yeah.
Like being at school, you had the beat test, the 2K time trial. So my idea of running was like super negative. And then I think through COVID and, just like maybe a couple of, rough weeks in terms of stress and feeling shit, it's like I need to get out and do something. And just going for a slow jog really helps that. So that's kind of what kickstarted it for me. And then, looking back, all of my content that I do running on does really well. So it's no surprise that it did kind of actually connect, and it did do well on social media for me, because it always has. And I don't know, I guess like running just works for me.
I think gym, like you can literally find 1,000 videos on beginner workouts, but then to find a beginner video on running, that's the main thing. People have no idea. It's like, okay, gym, push-pull legs, full body, these couple exercises. Running, it's like, I don't have the right shoes. How long should I go for? What's a good time? Am I too overweight?
Yeah.
So when you kind of just give just basic instructions to people, it's like, okay, that's somewhere to start from. Yeah. And that's what probably resonated with a lot of people.
Yeah, exactly. And also like the gym stuff's very kind of like male dominated, young teen, kind of young man. Whereas running is like, my grandma started running because of me. It's like anyone can do it. So the second you open up an audience like that's as large scale as that, then and you can actually explain it in a palatable format, then it seems to resonate with people.
For sure. How have you dealt with sort of the identity side of things? And I want to like obviously transfer this later on to the content creating side of things, but combining both I've absolutely gone blank.
The identity side,
the identity side of being like sort of that runner and combining it with your content, like where you all started with that, if that makes sense.
Yeah, to an extent. I mean, the identity of being a runner is like, no one really calls himself a runner.
I just realized you identified as a runner and you never ran a marathon like before this week.
I know, exactly.
Like, damn,
and the runners hate me for that. Exactly right. So like the identity of being a runner is not necessarily what I necessarily align with. Running is one part of who I am. Sure. At the moment it's a big part, but like I have so much more to offer than just running. And it hasn't been too much of a struggle, to be honest. Like you kind of, the people choose it. Like you don't really pick it. You can try and pick it as much as you want, but at the end of the day, if one thing works, then you're kind of gonna have to stick with that
and build off on it.
Yeah, exactly. And you can, like, once you build a platform, you can keep building on that. And that's like what I'm trying to do right now.
I think it's more like your content direction. The content that does well is running, because it's such a smaller market compared to gym videos online. Like it's so easy to find gym videos. So obviously it's just a part of your identity, but it's more about what you produce on your content side of things.
Yeah, exactly right, mate. Bang on. So it's like, I do want to do more gym stuff. I'm not trying to show people how to get as jacked as possible.
Are you a big gym guy? Like, because now if you want to stay in the 70s, obviously you're limited in how much growth. You're not doing the bulking, cutting. It's very different. Like a bodybuilder, like 6 months of the year bulking, and then they'll cut, and then they'll maintain. But if you want to be running a marathon or running a lot of kilometers, you're not going to be bulking through winter.
Nah,
you know?
My days of bulking and cutting are well and truly done, I think. But I've found it really easy to maintain size through it and strength. Like I generally, as long as I can do, 100 kilos on the bench for 10 and
For 10?
Yeah. And 3 sets and
we need to hit a session together.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, like the other lifts as well. Like I just want to be able to kind of do that and then also do the running side. But losing size is I'm not too concerned with. I always know I'm able to get it back pretty quickly. I've got an elite home gym. Like it would be ridiculous if I couldn't get in there and train most of the time.
Yeah. Would you see yourself, obviously now you're lifting and running, and then we spoke about Nick Bear before, who does the swimming, the cycling. Is that something you'd like to, maybe not now, but in the future? It's like, okay, I'll do a couple more marathons and then maybe like a triathlon, maybe at something else. Like an Ironman?
Yeah.
These are things like a 5-year, 10-year plan. Have you thought about those kind of things?
Yeah, absolutely. I think like Ironman's, trail running's pretty big as well. All of that sort of stuff. I love pushing myself, and I love kind of getting to those like mental depths that I was in that marathon. But I think more like just in general for my content and for what I want to do in the fitness industry, I suppose, is just like helping more people. It's like I get such a kick out of seeing people using my advice and then like implementing it in their life. Like this running stuff's been incredible in that like I've had thousands of messages of people saying they started running, and then it's like not only I'd see the message like, oh, I started running because of you, and then 3 months later I just did my first like half marathon. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So that's more my direction, and I want to keep challenging myself and pushing myself, but I'm certainly not trying to be an Olympian.
Yeah.
Did you have someone that you looked up to sort of into that field? You know how like now you've sort of started like a movement, I guess, within Australia, within I don't know, Melbourne here specifically, where guys can look up and say, hey, yeah, I can call you Louis now, we're mates, so they can say, yeah, I've watched Louis growing up, this is that year, he inspired me to get into run. Did you have that sort of person, especially even with like the mental toughness side of things?
Yeah, I've been asked this a little bit lately.
Because when I associate runs, mental toughness, there's only one guy that comes to my mind. Who is it?
Goggins.
Yeah, David Goggins, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's that type of thing.
Yeah, not really, to be honest. I guess... like I come from a bit of a footy background. I was all right at footy, not amazing, but good enough to play like in senior footy and like most of my life. But I absolutely loved the way like Ben Cousins played and like that gut running side. So I guess as a kind of someone to emulate off in terms of fitness, I quite like the way he went about it. But there's not really anyone in the fitness scene that's kind of driven me or has inspired me necessarily. I think I get more inspiration from friends and family, from some of my followers. My dad's always been really big on like, stop looking yourself in the mirror and go and fucking help someone. Yeah. Like that's always been a big thing for him. And, he's not like degrading me by any means, but like try and help more people. So in terms of inspirations, I'd say dad and probably mum in there as well. Yeah. But there's not really any like particular individual in the fitness industry.
Yeah, and what I've realized, like even till this day, like the AFL, like social media realm, it's kind of like there's a niche there. They're not really fond of people being very active in social media.
Mate, great pickup.
Honestly, I'm very surprised.
It is disgusting. Like I made footy content for a year there a couple of years ago, and it was just brutal.
It flopped,
It was just horrible. Like the comments were so rough. I'd go out and play and I'd have like some 50-year-old mum of 20 screaming over the sidelines, just like hurling the most ridiculous abuse. And it's like, why am I even doing this? Like I'm just doing this to try and help younger kids. I'm not trying to get anyone into the AFL necessarily. So I put a stop to that straight away. But my housemate Tom, Prime Train, he's so great with it. Like he cops it so much.
I don't know how he deals with it.
I don't know how. Honestly, there's times I kind of knock on his door like, "You good, mate?" Like I just saw that video and all the comments. But the AFL world is toxic, and I've heard things about AFL clubs not liking us, particularly like myself, Tom, Gab, like just hatred towards it. So like unless the mindset is unless you're playing at the top, then you're not allowed to post about it.
For sure, yeah.
Then even if you're playing at the top, would they want you posting about
God,
it?
no.
So it's like,
good luck. But at least like
it's a lose-lose.
Christian Petrarca's starting to post stuff now, you know, about game day, kind of get ready with.
On TikTok,
Which I think is really good.
Day in the life and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that opens it up. And, but yeah, mate, the AFL world's
it's disappointing, man.
Yeah.
And the AFL world needs it as well. Like I remember I was watching Giddy on, what's his name? Tom Mitchell's podcast the other day.
Yep.
And he speaks about like the disparity between like the NBA and like the AFL. It's like almost, I wouldn't say cult-like because I'd say that's sort of like disrespectful, but almost they haven't taken it to like that next level. And it's something they've known so long. So they're so comfortable with that sort of method as well, you know?
Yeah, I think it's very like culturally Australian as well.
Yeah.
Just like knock people down straight away. And I've done it before, no doubt, but it's that tall poppy syndrome where it's like if someone's doing something different or doing something better than you, then you got to tear them down as quick as you can. And like, man, I noticed that starting 9to5 with Gab, it's just like we didn't have support, and we had no support until we had kind of like made it, you know, making it, like, what do you define as making it? But until we were somewhat like legitimate in the field, and until we had people coming up to us for photos, then it was like embarrassing to be associated with us.
Yeah, till you started building traction, because it's easy to hate at the start, not hate, but also have sort of some like,
Or just belittle.
Yeah, there's a bit of pessimism there,
Yeah.
as well, you know, because it hasn't had something to grow to sort of fruition, you know what I mean? Compared to once it starts to build that traction, it's like because there's a YouTuber, you know, you guys know Chunks, yeah? It's like when Chunks from the Somali community, when he first started, which is niche community and all that kind of stuff, going on to YouTube was such a seen as a big thing. And no one wants to claim you in your early days.
Yeah.
But as soon as like you break out and then you start having this collab and all that kind of stuff, it's like, oh, I used to watch you when you had 100 subscribers.
Yeah.
You know? But in reality, you didn't. You know what I mean?
You didn't.
But that's where I guess that sort of perseverance and that ability to like block out everything and
and like, what's the alternative? Like, what, I could just be unhappy and wish I did it for the rest of my life? Well, no, I'm gonna have a crack. And I think that's why, like, the power of social media, especially in the last 5 years, especially with TikTok and stuff, it's like it's so good for that, because there's so many people who are putting themselves out of their comfort zone. You know, I get so many messages, especially from like old family friends and stuff. And I've had 6 to 10 of people who I knew, you know, like in a past life, and they've just been like kind of watching me through the social media stuff, and they start messaging me like, I love what you do, like, how can I do it? So, well, you just have to start. Like, there's actually not a blueprint. Yeah, it's going to be difficult, it's going to be tough, and it's hard to, you know, for Instagram, let's say, it's hard to go from posting going out content, you know, getting dressed, getting on the piss, to like, this is how to run a 5K.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, there's no way to soften that. It's same with podcasting. I'm sure you guys have noticed it as well. Like, when you start your first podcast, like, well, hang on, you can't just do that.
And also, before you even start, sorry to cut you off, there's like, in your head, there's 1,000,001 things that would go wrong, you know, but until you start, then you can sort of like figure your way throughout it. You know what I mean? Whereas when you haven't started nothing, it's just problems that just come to your mind straight away.
We're all going to die one day as well.
I think in Australia, one thing we can see, like even you guys starting a podcast a couple of years ago, the same with us, there's not like a blueprint here in the Australian community. It's like, okay, hey, this guy's you know, he's made it, he's successful making YouTube videos, podcast or whatever it is. Even though it's all new, it's not a Aussie culture thing where it's like, hey, okay, let's, you know, like in London, in America, it's just the most common thing. Like you can literally walk the streets of London and you'll see some guy with a GoPro vlogging. I've walked the street, we went to some restaurants vlogging. They start giving us free food. They start treating us differently.
Best thing ever.
And I'm like, man, it's just not common here. You know, like you could see people's like, we've done it in the gyms before. We see people coming and waving like, hey, what are you doing? I'm like, I've been at this gym for 3 years. No one's ever spoken to us. We pull out a camera and it's like, it's a new and exciting thing for people here in Australia, but it's not like, how often do you go to a gym and see people recording?
Not at all.
Like you see the girls recording and then you got to be careful
later
on.
Get away from the tripods.
Dangerous.
Dangerous, mate. Lose your job.
But also on top of that, riding on top of that as well, pause. But the other thing is, it's a niche market, especially in like Melbourne. Like if you try something, you know, everyone wants to see someone, like as much as people say, oh yeah, like the negativity and the pessimism with it, it's like a niche market, so it's bound to succeed, you know? And that's the other thing as well, compared to like what Ashraf said with LA and all of that kind of stuff, it's like everyone's an influencer, everyone's a content creator, you know what I mean? So now you're battling against everyone, when in reality here in Melbourne, it's just you and you, essentially.
Yeah, and use it to your advantage. Like how good's that? Step out, like there's so much more opportunity then. There's more of the pie to have. So yeah, it's like it can have a negative connotation of like, oh, it's not accepted, it's not good in Australia. Well, it's going to be easier. Like you're going to cop it for a little bit, but it's a lot easier to be recognised. It's a lot easier, you know, to like be known as the gym person or as the running guide or as whatever you want. Like you can step out and be it.
How did you feel when you started getting your first brand deals? Because obviously, like I've seen a couple of things, and I'm like, man, that's actually like just the idea that like Brooks or Gymshark or whoever is like sending me clothes that I don't have to pay for. That just seems like sick. How was that like?
Oh, mate, it's unreal. I've had brand deals before prior to like properly blowing up, especially through 9to5 and stuff, and it's just like little ones here and there. And then I pretty much signed with a manager, and then that kind of month started doing the running stuff, picked right up. So I was in the hot seat to be able to capitalize on that following as much as possible. So when you're getting brand deals in and my manager's calling me, hey mate, we just signed with Gymshark, like congratulations. Like,
Gymshark is big.
Yeah, and then like Brooks as well.
Is it actually like signed or they send you some product? Because I know the Gymshark like
I'll get paid. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like,
damn. That's crazy. Because not a lot of Aussies like that. Like we have Zach Perner here in Melbourne. One of our friends in Sydney, he got some clothes sent over to him. He's been in the fitness influencer, fitness content creation as well. Game for a while. It's like it's crazy to think, you know, it's good for Aussies to be at that level.
Yeah,
you know,
and it also actually like you need to have your head screwed on with it because brands will take advantage of you. Like these brands have such deep pockets; they should be paying you very well because you're doing so much as promotion. And you know, shout out to Brooks and Gymshark and My Protein and all of my sponsors because they've looked after me very well. And they back me in what I can do for their brand. So it's like you see these smaller creators, and it's like, hey man, I'll give you a protein shaker for 20 stories, a reel and a fucking post. And these guys are like, that sounds great. They just dedicated their whole page to it. And it's like, for what, man? Like that shaker costs them 30 cents to make, and they just send it out to you and you get to, and you're posting. So like shout out to Gab. That's where he's been really good. He's educated a few different people, and like knowing your worth in this industry is really important because it's full of cowboys. There's not really much legislation. There's not like a set deal. When you have this amount of followers, you get paid this much. It's your hustle, and it's how brutal you are to brands, essentially.
And it's a two-way street, I guess, as well. You know what I mean? It's like, help, scratch my back, I'll scratch your back.
Yeah,
exactly. They need it as much as you do. You know what I mean? You're exposing them to a certain niche 100%. That they need.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you have brands you'd like to work with? Like you'd love to reach out to them? Because obviously, like even shoes, like Brooks are very good for shoes. You know, you rate them a lot. Gymshark, it's like, after that, it's like Nike and Adidas. You know, obviously that's like a dream.
Yeah.
Is there things like you'd like to do?
Yeah, mate. I'm kind of stacked at the moment. I don't have any more room for other brands.
That's a very good problem.
It's a good problem to have. I've had a bit of a relationship with Apple, which is good. I'd love to really build
Apple,
on that.
man.
But they are an incredible organization. Like I don't know how much I can say here, but they do not give a shit about like, you're either with us or you're not. Like we don't care about rates or anything. You can wear our stuff if you want. That's great. But if not, we don't care. You can talk shit about it. We don't care. Like they are so big that they're not like sending you contracts where it's like, you got to do this, this and this, 4 posts this day. And they're just like, you can have product and do whatever you want about it. But like, I'd love to have more involvement with big tech companies like that.
Are you big into your tech?
No, not really, but I like Apple.
It's good enough. It's like, imagine they give you iPads every year, laptops. Like, come on, man. And they're getting expensive, man. How much is the new Apple Watch? Like,
no idea. I reckon what, $2,000, $2.5?
Yeah, as much as a phone.
Yeah,
it's pretty crazy these days.
It's.
Hang on a second. You're not subscribed. Can you do me a favor? Run that mouse or your finger to the bottom there. Click that subscribe button. Turn on that notification bell as well. Thank you.
Crazy.
Sure.
Yeah.
I want to go back to the whole like sort of start with the content creating side of things. So first of all, the 9to5 name. Could you double into that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, well, Gab, like, it's probably not as deep as what people kind of think it is, but we, 2020, Gab was on exchange. I was just at home, and we were like texting furiously. Like, I was so passionate about gym, so is he. I wanted to do like an apparel side. He wanted to do gym programming. We're like, why don't we just come together and create it? He got back from exchange pretty much the day he landed. We registered the business. We brainstormed a few names, and 9to5 Fitness was like the one that was free online. It's like no one else has taken that. We did 9to5 Fitness because it was like, like we wanted it to be for like the everyday person in a 9 to 5 job, make gym and that kind of thing like accessible for them.
Yep.
So that's kind of where it came from, but it's not like it doesn't
bigger
have that much.
Yeah, for sure.
Doesn't have that much depth to it.
Yeah,
But
not that much
it is a good name though, because it just suits everyone. It's like I work 9 to 5. I have a busy life. It's pretty much like how to stay healthy. Balancing a busy life.
Because I interpreted when I first obviously seen the podcast and the name, I was like, because we were having a conversation about this the other day on like our Let's Chat episode. We're talking about the whole concept of like getting out of the rut and doing things like specifically for yourself. So I thought it related back to that concept where it's like being able to work, do what you want, and like love it at the same time. You know? How old were you when you started it, by the way?
I think I was 21 when we started it.
Yeah.
And such babies, I thought I was such like a mature old man. Like we just had no idea, which is great. And it's kind of, like that. Like the first to do it is generally going to go pretty well. Like we're in it together, so it's like, well, let's just crack in. Like I don't care if we get all this hate and stuff. And we were able to do it. So, but yeah, looking back, we were such kids.
Exactly. There's a blessing in being naive.
Yeah, but you look back at like 6 months ago and you're like, like we on the podcast, like shouldn't have said that. I disagree with that opinion. Yeah. That's just the normal thing of, getting older. But one thing that we often talk about, because we try to get guests on a lot of our episodes, and I know you guys like to do the same thing, it's because it's like the imposter syndrome. Like, should I be speaking about this? Like, obviously you look at, everyone can only judge their physique for themselves, but it's like, should I be talking about fitness when I can get some jacked bodybuilder that's got the ideal physique to come speak about it? And sometimes we have that like, oh, I'm not the right person to speak about it. I should only get someone else, because we think I'm like a 6 or 7 out of 10. To like my peak level. Yourself, Louis. It's like, okay, I want to be this and I'm not there yet. Did you ever get those thoughts like, hey, I'm not the best version of myself yet, so maybe I shouldn't be making content? Or were you like, let's show someone the journey? Because a lot of gym guys, they already have the perfect body, and then they start posting videos. Like I know you like Mike Thurston. It's like if you saw him when he was younger and you watched him on his growth, it would be very different than seeing him have that body now.
Yeah, it's a great point. I mean, of course, I've felt like I've questioned myself the whole way through. I'm human. But I think long gone are the days of that like robotic influencer where it's like the most perfect person. They get up at 4 a.m. every day. They have their, like raw egg shake and then get into a 4-hour gym session. And then, like those days are over. It's not relatable. People don't actually connect with it. So I think when I understood that, like, I can affect lives in a way, whether that's in regards to my physique or in regards to training, like, I can still be someone's goal. And you're talking to that audience. Like, I'm not trying to affect the bodybuilding audience. I'm not trying to show someone how to get to Mr. Olympia, but I do want to show people how to be more fit, happy, and thus healthy.
I think that even for us, like, we find it difficult because sometimes we go to the gym and we're like, are we training like a bodybuilder or are we training like an athlete? I know you had Coach Yui on and you're asking these type of questions. And I think that's where maybe you're trying to just come from like functional, everyday athlete. Yeah. It's like, I love being healthy. Doesn't mean I want to make the AFL or I want to make whatever it is, the A-League, but it's like, I still want to be a peak version of myself. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly right. And you can't like, there's no, like, humans are fluid. Like, we're changing, we're dynamic all the time. You're not just going to put yourself in one box and be it. Like, I went from trying to put on as much size as possible in kind of that bodybuilding vibe to just trying to be athletic. And now I just want to be healthy and happy. And, my process is not kind of one dimensional. I'm trying to do a whole lot of different things, and that's consistent with humans as well.
Yeah. I think it's a well-balanced approach, What type of podcast do you like to listen to? Are you, because you had 9 to 5, you have your own podcast, you've been on podcasts before, so I wanted to know what type of...
I'm a huge Joe Rogan lover.
I could sense that from a mile away.
Really?
No, there is no offense. I love Joe Rogan. I think we all love Joe Rogan as well. Of course. I don't know, but you just get the gauge sometimes. Some people you just you can sense it.
I love the way he goes about it.
Favorite guest?
Favorite guest. See, it changes because, like, I love a lot of Theo Von's stuff with him, like, and I love Theo Von's podcast as well. It's just like a more chilled kind of vibe. Sure. Favorite guest though? Did any spring to mind?
I definitely have, I sort of have a top 3. It depends also like what vibe of him, because he covers like literally everything. Episode wise, it would probably have to be Matthew Walker up there.
Oh, great episode.
So
yeah.
Matthew Walker, Joey Diaz, Uncle Joey,
Love Joey. Yeah.
definitely. And then my third one, I didn't have a top three.
Naval.
It's
The
hard to
Naval
think.
one.
Oh, Naval Ravikant. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
great as well.
Oh, you know him?
Yeah, well, I've listened to the podcast.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
I love that. Who was he first? Oh, the Michael Walker. Mate, I reckon that podcast stressed me out. I lost sleep over that podcast.
It's like
which
you're
is
getting
not the point.
Alzheimer's if you're not getting this.
Yeah, I'm trying to get to sleep. I listen to podcasts before I go to bed. It's my favourite thing to do is like
Same, yeah.
put it on a podcast, add the 30-minute timer, click it on and just lock in. But I've been listening to First Things First with Mike Thurston. Like he's got a new podcast, had some really good guests on, and he's actually such a talented podcast host. And then also like the Diary of a CEO.
Yeah.
As well, which is
He's
always
nice.
good. But some of the episodes, I'm not. Same with Joe Rogan. Like, I can't listen to all of them because they're often like stand-up comedians, which I love stand-up comedy. But
It's a hit or miss.
yeah,
Is there a reason why you listen to them at night time as you go to sleep?
yeah, probably because I just don't want to face my thoughts. Hey, but I just like having something to listen to when I'm going to bed. I find it's easy for me to switch off, especially in like the world of social media. And it's like I'm on my phone a stupid amount. I'd hate to see my screen time. So it's like you're comparing, you're doing all this stuff just before you go to bed, and it's like to switch off. I prefer to.
Have you told anyone and they've told you that's kind of like psychotic?
No, but I can feel that it is that it's unhealthy. Have you?
No, because I do the exact same thing, and every time I tell someone, they're like, first of all, isn't it too loud? Like I even remember when we were like in Sydney, and then after we all sharing the same room.
Yeah.
Wasn't going to say what I was going to say before, but we're all sharing the same room, and then it's
Those
like
bunk beds.
Those bunk beds. And then like I'd have to be listening to something before I go to sleep.
Yeah.
But then after over time, I've realized like it's good because that's where like I consume most of like my information that period of time. But also you don't get that like empty mind, that ability just to like let your thoughts like run out type of thing.
Yeah.
Because also when I'm driving, I'm listening to something. As I'm going to sleep, I'm listening to something. And in between the day, and you know what I mean? So
yeah, it's probably not like how it's probably good to just confront your thoughts.
not that I'll say I have bad thoughts either. Do you get what I mean?
I'm the same though. Like I never like even if it's a 3-minute drive, I'm playing something.
Yeah.
And then
You have
like
to.
my wife, she's like, nah. She goes, I drove 40 minutes to work today.
Yeah.
I said, did you play a podcast? She goes, nah.
Oh,
I'm thinking,
40
you're
minutes?
crazy.
Peace, mate.
I'm like,
You're
that's a waste of
Must
40
be
minutes.
nice.
You know what's funny? Yeah,
I was like, bro, I sent you a podcast. Listen to
I
it.
think it's kind of psychotic people that could drive without listening to nothing.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's crazy.
You know, but then again, it's probably their internal monologue.
I think it's the same for running.
Yeah.
How do you run and not listen to anything? I know it's therapeutic. But
it's
like,
not.
I just can't.
It's not nice,
just
but
gotta
it's better for like pace and stuff. You can bring your heart rate down, but I'd much prefer to listen to something.
But maybe for like, if you're just someone who's going to go for a 2-3K run, you're not really thinking about pace too much. You're just like, hey, I want to get fit.
Yeah,
So,
listen to it. Then.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
That's
for sure.
fine.
What are some tips that have made running, or let's go back to that running conversation real quick as well, that have made the ability to run like easier, like overcoming sort of the resistance type of thing?
So the biggest one for me is like it's called like an 80-20 split. If you're trying to run longer distance, then instead of like going flat chat the whole time and trying to run as fast as you possibly can, it's actually scaling it back and running to your heart rate. So most of us have like a smartwatch or access to something that can measure your heart rate, and doing like 80% of your runs at a slow, lower heart rate, and for a longer distance. Like that's just going to infinitely scale your fitness. It's like building your aerobic base, and that'll allow you to run for further and longer and eventually faster. So that is the main one. That's kind of what I've been preaching, during all this running content.
Yeah.
What else has helped? I think.
What about prior to the running? Like as you're, like let's just say you're having a lazy day, you don't want to run, or you're not in that feeling, you're not going to be perfect, 100% energetic every single day. Is there like sort of a ritual or routine that you do before you start getting into running?
Yeah, like the old saying is just like put your shoes on.
Yeah.
Like you just got to get out there. I mean, one I do if I really can't be bothered is like, all right, I'll just go for like a 4K run, which like for me is quite easy.
Yeah.
And just, for other bit that may be just go for a 1K walk, or just do something, just get outside essentially. And then once you get going, you find you get into your groove and you always run further. So like, you almost have to trick your brain into it. Just like, all right, I'm just going to get out and do a 1K run or a 1K walk, and then you will work into it eventually.
Yeah, it's almost like negotiating with yourself, taking it easy with yourself.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I get a lot of questions regarding like motivation. Oh, how are you so motivated? Well, I'm not. I'm more disciplined than I am motivated. So it's like rely on discipline over motivation because you're not always going to have motivation.
How do you? So you're still playing footy till this day, right?
I signed at Wangaratta out with Tom, and then did a full pre-season and got all this running stuff blew up. Sponsors
had to make a big decision.
A tough decision as well.
Is it your first year not playing footy?
First year not playing footy.
Oh man,
Yeah.
How is it then? How is it not playing? Yeah,
I hate
weekends are different.
Yeah, it's not the way. It's more like when I'm training for running and stuff. I just want to compete with someone. Like I've been competing my whole life on the weekends. So if I'm going for a 4-5K run, I'm like kind of hoping someone comes up and bumps me or like talks shit to me or the 50-year-old across the fence is
some sort of challenge
at me. Yeah, like I want more. So I've really missed that side, but like it's
would you
just
play resis or anything? Thirds just for fun?
No, well, it's just as risky. Like
for injuries.
The risk. If I do an ACL, then I can't run.
That's all your content gone.
Yeah, that's all my content. Now what?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Get a show rehab back to running.
Yeah, exactly. Start up the OnlyFans then. But nah, I think I want to get back to footy, but I don't know. I said after the marathon maybe I'll go and try and play a few games. I might still do that, but it's not looking like it, to be honest.
Because I'm curious to like see how to incorporate running into competition as well. Because I play soccer now. I got back into it after 2 years. I'm trying to implement your running, but I'm trying to figure out where to put it, whether it's running for recovery, whether it's for my fitness training. Because obviously with sport, you want to do interval training. That's that's a lot better. But then where do you fit the long distance running?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's hard. Like that's really difficult. If I was playing a season right now and I was still trying to run, I'd probably try and fit it in somewhere and do like some lower impact stuff. I love actually after a game of footy, let's say I play on a Saturday, on a Sunday, actually going for a run, really slow jog. It's really good for recovery. Like low heart rate, just get blood flow. Obviously, if you're not like completely beaten up, but if you can get out and do something, so that's when I'd run. And then training on a Tuesday and Thursday, let's say, I'd be able to fit a run in on the Wednesday. But you have to weigh it up, and you need to have done the right work in the gym to make sure your body can withstand that much load.
So what's your gym schedule looking like with the running?
Well, I'm training most days in the gym. It's probably 5 to 6 days a week. Okay. I just do an upper lower split that's pretty chill. Like I've brought the volume back a little bit.
Just mainly compound exercises?
Yeah, mainly compound exercises. But it's nothing amazing at the moment. I got to get back into it and really crack it. I'm keen to crunch the gym a whole lot more now that I've done this marathon.
Do you do any knees over toes? Do you know knees over toes?
Yeah, I do. I know. Yeah, I haven't. No.
Okay.
Apparently, it's quite good though.
Yeah, just because I hear obviously you've recently got into running, but they talk about longevity and talk about the difference between like an athlete, or you say even like someone that just goes gym for strength and conditioning, and a runner, and they say joints, injuries, wear and tear for runners are like the worst compared to everything. Obviously, it depends on how many miles you put in your feet. If you actually go gym, a lot of runners might not do the gym strength and conditioning with it, but that's where like knees over toes talks about that longevity, taking care of your joints.
Absolutely, and I probably should be doing more in regards to that. I think in general, I have access to a lot of good physios and stuff, and like if you can build up the correct muscles around your legs, around your knees and stuff, then your calves and your quads and hammies and so on, you're generally going to be okay. And then also actually looking at form, like form is really big. So in running, it's like you have what's called cadence. So how many steps, let's say you're fitting in a meter or in 10 meters. It's like the more steps you can do, obviously the shorter your stride is, the better it is for your body. So like actually increasing cadence is a good way to do it. So looking at form is a big one.
Wow. I know for me, like I go play soccer, indoor soccer, outdoor, 2 hours, amazing. Don't feel anything. It's easy. I go running, and I've been trying to go for runs. I'll be like 1K in, my calves start hurting, my quads start. It's like these joints that I've never felt any pain when I go play sports. And then as soon as I go for runs, I start feeling everything. Yeah. I think it's just more of a mental thing.
Yeah.
Like I'm in my own head. I'm waiting for something to happen to be like, hey, why don't I take it easy today?
Yeah, potentially. And it does take time. Like you've got to build up your body slowly. But it could be mental as well. But running is so brutal on your body. Like there's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
So
you prefer running on tracks? Is it like or around the footy oval, anything grass, or do you don't really care?
For my body, it's probably better to be running on grass, but I can't be bothered doing that.
Yeah, the running, doing laps around the footy oval.
Yeah,
It's like-
nightmare fuel.
Yeah.
I think and you want quick times as well. You get on Strava and stuff. It's like you get into that Strava culture of just trying to get quicker and quicker and post about it. So running on road works the
Yeah,
best.
true.
I want to bring it back to the social media side of things just a little bit. Because you started getting into, if I'm not wrong, into the content creating space as, I guess, TikTok blew up and whatnot. How much has TikTok helped you over, I guess, your career so far?
Yeah, hugely. Especially early days with 9to5 and stuff. It's like everything.
Yeah.
Posting on TikTok just gave us followers, made us legitimate. And
This
really
was during COVID as well, yeah?
solidified a community. Yeah, during COVID. So, and we were pumping out like 6 videos a day, 3 each, onto the same account, and it was just
That's not easy.
it was
Yeah.
flying. So yeah, TikTok was fantastic for that. Now I can't stand TikTok, to be honest. I hate it with a passion. It's so toxic. Like
Why the comments?
yeah, the comments. Like, there's
He's
no,
literally gonna ask that guy.
yeah, like the accountability. Like there's no accountability to commenting on it because
Yeah.
on Instagram it's connected to like profiles. It's connected to who you are. So it's like I could, if John Smith is commenting hate, it's like, well, I know it's John Smith. Don't I? Whereas on TikTok it's like user 24879.
Yeah,
it's like
for
a
sure.
burner account. I can't compete. So that side of it I don't really like.
Do you consume TikTok yourself though?
Yeah, too much.
Yeah.
I'd say.
Do you comment on people? Like
Nah.
you comment on other runners, you guys.
I make burner accounts and start commenting on them. Bring them down, mate. There can only be one. No, I don't comment much.
Yeah, but you use TikTok a lot. Like your screen time is. The thing is, you have to know. It's like a fine line. It's like, okay, my life or my earnings is from this, so I have to kind of know what's happening, and then eventually it's like, yeah, I'm just wasting time on it.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a lot more time wasting than actually like researching for business because like the trend stuff is very like if I'm doing TikTok, me and Charlie D'Amelio doing TikTok dances, like that doesn't really apply to me. But I definitely notice that if I'm like more stressed or like more anxious throughout the week, then my screen time will increase on TikTok because you're just looking for that dopamine release. It's like TikTok's just easy. You just scroll.
And plus you're distracting yourself from the things
Exactly.
that are actually need to be addressed basically. you know?
Exactly
I
right.
found myself to be doing the same thing as well. But then it's also like that, I don't know, maybe you can give me a tip on this, but they're like that balance on like not overly consuming it as well, because I can't live without it. I'll be honest, like there's some people that can live without it, but I enjoy it too
What
much.
about like 3 years ago when you went on it?
No,
It's
okay,
like,
okay.
I'm a different person.
Honestly, I wonder that myself sometimes because I deleted it like
What did I do?
I'm wondering the exact same thing. Like 3 years ago, I wasn't on it. So was I just flipping between YouTube and Instagram the whole time and
Yeah,
Twitter?
I was doing that. Yeah.
It's like it doesn't make sense. But it's one of those things. I guess it all comes down to like discipline.
Yeah, it is discipline, and I think you should be able to recognize. I've been on this for too long, and bloody get off it and do whatever you want. My issue, it's my full time. Like I can literally do whatever I want during the day. To be honest, I
That must feel good, man.
Well, it's great, but it's I could just sit there on TikTok all day.
Yeah.
Well, obviously I don't, but like that's where the discipline comes in. It's
The
like
accountability as well.
like go to bed, turn the phone off.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
For sure. And plus as well, like, because you're not like guess reporting to like a manager, there's not someone overseeing you. You can have like all that free time to yourself. It's like, what do you do with it?
Yeah, exactly. It's very easy to do nothing, but I would feel shit at the end of the day if I did that.
What do you like to fill your time with then?
Oh, it's very fitness based at the moment. So like all fitness stuff. I love like off time is like hanging out with mates. So it's just like I've got a couple of mates and we can literally sit around. I could kick it with them for 2 weeks and literally just sit on a couch talking to them. So doing stuff like that. I always go out for dinner with them or like we go and get yochi and stuff. So that's me at my best kind of thing. And then just working during the day, it's very like content based. So I'll do fitness and then the second half of the day is editing that content. There's a lot of brand stuff in the middle there as well. And then I've also got to like, do all this, like I'm doing this free programming for Sunday Run and then you're kind of talking to other businesses as well for future stuff. So that's kind of
You spend a lot of time doing editing
a fair bit, yeah.
Yeah?
Probably 3-4 hours.
a day.
Yeah, thereabouts.
How did you learn to edit? Was it YouTube videos?
Nah, just figured it out myself, to be honest. Like just
You might
slowly
have to
growing.
teach our editor. He's a bit sloppy.
It's a bit sloppy.
Nah, he's good. He's good.
Yeah, well, it's not on like I'm not editing on the computer, just on my phone, like videos, posting
they're
content.
TikTok.
More
Yes.
time consuming though. Yeah.
Yeah, it is time consuming, and it's like it's not only like I'll edit videos for, let's say a brand, for example. They'll pay me to like make content for their page, so I don't actually have to post it on mine. So it's stuff like that.
What's your thoughts on not your thoughts on it, but like the importance of like collaborating with other like content creators as well? Because obviously it's kind of hard here when there's not many people out there, or you're probably not looking hard enough. But how much has that helped you collaborating with other people in your field, in your industry?
Yeah, I think it's like whether it's helped me like to an extent, it hasn't been negative at all.
Yeah.
Probably hasn't like launched my career by any means, but what it does do is gives you connection to people who are in the same boat as you. So like meeting up with Tom with Prime Train, it's like that's another person who's doing exactly what we're doing. So that's a whole lot nicer because you have someone to connect with over that. Like my friends who aren't in content, like they don't really understand they understand what I do, but like they don't understand what I go through to do it. They don't understand, like the loneliness side to content creation. It's incredibly lonely. So like having people in the same industry, it's just good to be able to talk about things.
Yeah, and generating ideas and stuff to bounce off, because you'll get times where you have no ideas come to your mind, correct?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and it's like, what do you do in a moment like that? It's like, it would help if there's other people around you.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I know if I'm thinking of, like, let's say if I was to think of a podcast idea or something like that, when I'm on my ones, or if like, let's just say I'm driving somewhere or something along those lines, it's much harder compared to when I'm in an open dialogue with the boys, because something they would have said would have led to the same direction. It's like, okay, bang, And then like, Teddy, obviously, he's just down the hall and everything. That's one of his like go-to sayings as well. You know what I mean? It's like it's almost like, what's that saying where it goes, it doesn't come to my mind, but like we all help each other type of thing. It's like you only grow if the other person grows, and it uplifts the whole field.
A rising tide lifts all ships.
Rising tide, yeah.
It's exactly right. And there's enough of the pie for all of us to have a go, especially in Australia because no one's really doing it. So, it's been great for that side of it. Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
I want to know, because now you just said content creation, sometimes there's a lonely side of it. Is these type of things affect your mental health? Is it like because sometimes people think you're living the best life.
Yeah.
And it's like, sometimes even they might say, Louis is too busy, he's doing all his running stuff, but it's like, really, it's 1-2 hours a day.
Yeah, exactly. To an extent, I've got such like a great family, a great like group, a support network around me that, affecting my mental health probably, it sounds a little bit like more than what it is, but I guess it does. Like you'll do a whole day of like just being on your own. You're out filming, then you go home, you're editing, get a few hate comments, and it's like I live out of home as well, and I'm not with like Tom and Gab the whole time. Like we do our own thing, so you do get to the end of a day or a couple of days, and it's like I haven't actually had that much communication with anyone. So that side of it is lonely. I don't really have colleagues as such. So yeah, it's part of it though. Like I wouldn't change it for the world.
Because that's also the thing where like content creation or even just aiming to be an influencer, because it's like that study that they show, like you ask someone in the US what they want to be, the kids, and they're like influencer. And you ask the kid in China what they want to be, and it's like an engineer, like what the goals we had. Talking about like the life of a influencer. Have you ever heard of Yes Theory?
Yeah, that rings a bell.
Yeah, they're a YouTube channel. There are 3 guys that they aim to just go out of their comfort zone and bring people out of their comfort zone. They've done all types of crazy feats. There's a guy, Matt, that started it, and he was on a podcast recently. I sent it to the boys. And so he started it, 10 million subs, massive community around the world. And when people ask him, he left the group. And when people ask him, should I make YouTube videos? He says no. That's the first thing he says. And he goes, you probably could, but it's a small minority of people that it's made for them. Like that your mental health won't get affected. You have thick skin where hate comments and stuff don't affect you. Because there's some people that they'll post videos, but right before the video, they're anxious, they're worried, they're sweating, right before a post. And it's a really big thing where it can affect people's mental health. And it's like, that's why it's not for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. And like the hate comments alone, it's like...
Yeah, I don't know how you do it, bro.
If you're going to be fragile, then it's not for you. It's not the industry for you, because people are so brutal and like... There's no accountability to it. So if you don't think you can handle it, then it's definitely not going to be for you. But on the contrary to that, it's like I'd hate to die wondering. And it's like if you have this burning need or want to make content, well then, do it. Like,
Yeah, you might as well try it.
Yeah, if it doesn't work out, well, that's fine. Like, you haven't signed a contract for life.
And also, if you realize a year and you're like, hey, this isn't for me, it's affecting my mental health too much, at least you gave it a try.
Yeah,
there's no what if.
Yeah, exactly right. But yeah, like YouTube's a whole new world that I haven't even gotten into.
But you've been starting posting your own stuff, which is good.
Yeah. I mean, I post the podcast stuff on there, but I don't really do like
vlogs
or anything yet.
You're going to do that soon?
Oh, I don't think I have it in me yet.
Because that's something we've wanted to do. It's like workouts with people. You know, it's one of those kind of things, because sometimes you watch the bodybuilders, you watch the athletes, and it's like, it's not for the everyday, like a mold between all different types of arts. So I thought it'd be good. We know some people that are like into martial arts, like some BJJ guys, some MMA fighters. We wanted to do some videos with them.
Yeah. And it's easier said doing it than like, because I know we say do it all the time, you know what I mean? But then after we question ourselves, because I've always said like I might see myself doing vlogs and all that kind of stuff. But then when you ask yourself out loud, why aren't I doing it? You know what I mean? It's like you're only there to blame yourself type of thing.
Yeah, it's the same as like trying to get a podcast off the ground, isn't it? Or like even, you know, in a group chat with your mates saying, hey, we should go to Europe or we should go here. It's like actually making it out of the group chat is a whole other step. It is. But it comes down to how bad do you want it, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. I've always found fancied the digital nomad type of lifestyle, you know what I mean? Because that's also what intrigued me, you know, when we're talking about the 9 to 5. It's like, because I could never see myself doing like a 9 to 5 or like, and regardless of what 9 to 5 you're talking, like the prestigious doctors or lawyers and all that kind of stuff, because it all goes back down to the idea that like I want to be free, live my life to like the fullest, you know, but it all goes back down to, I guess, sort of doing it, you know what I mean? Yeah,
you just gotta pull the trigger, don't you? That digital nomad lifestyle looks cool. I think would also get lonely. You know, like not only are you lonely from creating content, but you're in a whole nother country. But I think it'd be great to do for a year or two for sure.
You travelled much?
I've done a little bit of travel, looking to do more travel soon. So going to South Korea soon, and then also, which is a bit of a random one.
That is very random.
Yeah.
Why is that? Why South Korea?
We just wanted to do something different, and it is pretty different.
To the South Korea marathon?
Yeah, no, I think it's quite hot over there. Cool though.
Imagine this guy in a picture with all Koreans around him.
Photos, yeah, for sure.
That'd be good. And then after that, looking like I might be going to LA with one of my sponsors, which would be great, and then potentially Manchester after that.
So
it could be good, bro. Branching out, if you can collab with people around there, it's very good to do, man.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah, exactly. But I want to do more travel. I think I'm so lucky with what I do for a job. Like I can pack up and leave whenever, and I need to do more of that. So that's very much on the agenda, or what I want to do going forward. Got a few things to sort out first, and then once I have it all sorted, I'll look to do a world trip.
You could try to go for, I don't know how it is with Gymshark athletes, but I know they do Gymshark like meetups between the athletes. If you could ever go to one of those, that'll be pretty cool. Or even the headquarters looks amazing.
Yeah, well, if I'm over in UK, I'll definitely try and tee something up. But that's the great thing about being with a bigger brand, a bigger company, is like
the network.
Yeah, the network, and then like they've got headquarters everywhere, and like they can kind of sort you out.
Yeah, for sure.
So where does the podcast fit in all this short form content? So how long have you been doing the podcast now? Your Sunday run?
Yeah. Well, I mean, short form content. So that's exactly why I needed to do the podcast, because everyone's only seen 30-second clips of me. They have no idea who I really am. So if you can get them over to longer form, then you're able to solidify an audience a whole lot better. So if people are listening to you talk for an hour every week, they know everything about you. They've really bought into the brand. So the Sunday Run podcast idea just came up with the fact I just wanted to have like my own podcast and kind of do it running based, not have too much kind of like stuff over it. Like I can just do whatever I want with it. It's really good though. Like I've got a great community with it, and we're doing like group runs now and all that sort of thing. But I love podcasting. It's my favorite thing to do. Like,
how's it been doing it on your ones, doing it on your own, like piece the camera?
Yeah,
because that is a lot different than just having a conversation with your mate next to you.
It's pretty daunting. The first couple of episodes are scary because you essentially ask yourself a question and then answer it.
Such a weird concept.
Yeah. It's like a. But I tried to take a lot out of Theo Von. He does solo.
Nice,
he does. I'm not quite like, he almost gets in tears in his, and like it goes pretty crazy. But like I'm not quite there. But I love that like concept, and a good way to do it, I found, was just like put sunnies on. So
Yeah, I saw that.
you kind of hide behind them
It looks
a little
good
bit.
as well, man.
Yeah,
Pull it off.
put the sunglasses on and just
Yeah.
kind of sit there. You got your notes and ask yourself a question and then answer it. But like, I've got a producer for my podcast, and when he sits in the room, it's like a little bit more awkward because it's like I'm talking, he's there, but he's not there. And whereas I did one without him in the room, and I was just like so much more dialed in.
Yeah. And you're locked in as well.
Yeah, exactly.
That's really good, man. We wish you success for the podcast.
Thank you.
Yeah, it'll be very good to see, because even like a running based thing, it's like Joe Rogan is so diverse. If you're gonna have something that's like specific to running, I saw the guy you got on. Forgot his name. He wants to run around the entire Australia.
Sean Bell.
I was like, man,
Run
that's
around
intense.
Australia. Yeah.
When is he planning for that?
I'm not sure off the top of my head. I think towards the end of the year.
Oh, so
He's
this
doing
year.
a lap around Australia.
Yeah, because there's a guy
Running.
now doing a lap around.
For
Well, not a lap,
reports?
but he's going from South
Yeah.
Africa to North Africa.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
a guy now.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a runner. He's not day like
Mate.
40. He was running through
That's
Namibia
insane.
yesterday.
Yeah.
There's like 30 people behind him
Oh.
following.
Yeah,
Have you seen it?
Yeah,
He's
wasn't
a
he getting
English
shot
guy.
at and stuff.
No.
I could be wrong. Maybe it was a different one. He's zigzagging when he's running. Mate, the world of charity events is crazy. I tell you what, that's something I'm never going to do. I guarantee I'm not
Australia.
running across
He said it took him-
Australia.
it's going to take him 6 months.
Yeah, who's
Yeah.
Sean?
Yeah, where's he going to sleep?
Yeah.
The
6 months.
Australian
Wait, is he
guy.
doing it for a cause?
Yeah, he's doing it for charity. I think
Yeah.
it Make a Wish from memory.
Yeah.
But that's like the Ned Brockman effect, who ran
Yeah.
across
Yeah.
from Perth to Sydney, and it just
Blew up.
up. Like it just did. It was so good for his brand, and that I think that comes back to who he is. You know, he's just an average Aussie guy. He was working on the job site. You know, he'd put the tools down and then go for a marathon. Like, so it'd be hard to emulate that. And anyone else doing a charity run now, it's like the standards are very high.
Yeah. If you're not doing that, it's like, why are you doing
Yeah, exactly. It's just like it just keeps going, doesn't it? So
Yeah.
I'd be staying away from
That's
that.
crazy.
personally.
Even
Yeah.
one of our mates in Sydney, he actually did a 100K run,
Mm.
and he did it. Was it half the run? We was fasting, so he couldn't eat or drink. So I don't know how he did it. I think he
Couldn't eat or drink.
I think it was the first half, and then this. So up until like sunset, so about 6-7 p.m. And then the rest that night he could consume. But then you think about that.
He ran the
mentally.
whole night.
It's
Yeah.
the water. Could he drink water?
No, nothing.
not even
Yeah.
water.
Yeah.
That's
We should
incredible.
show you his account. Yeah, he's a
Yeah.
gun.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Not even water as well. It's crazy.
Mm.
Going back to the podcasting thing, I just wanted to ask one question. Did you have that strategy about doing the short form combined with having that audience prior to actually starting, or was it something that you just sort of developed along?
As in terms of Sunday Run, like doing short form and then creating the podcast, or
What came first, the short form content or the podcast?
yeah, the short form definitely.
Yeah.
So started with the short form. So same with 9 to 5. Like we started on TikTok, and then went to we were on Instagram as well. And then it was like a bit further down the line. It's like, okay, well we've made all these like shorter videos. Why don't we actually try and get our personalities out there and become a little bit more marketable?
Exactly, yeah.
Like show
Yeah.
show that we can converse properly and we're not just these idiots behind a screen
Yeah.
for 30 seconds.
Because I think that's also like sort of the stage that we're at right now. You know what I mean? Because I think we've built like a audience somehow. But it's also gone to like that next level of giving your audience something, you know what I mean? So they can follow along with your life, you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Sounds so narcissistic, but
yeah. That's
yeah.
the world, mate.
Yeah. I'm going to touch on one last thing. This is a personal thing. It can be on the podcast anyway.
I've got a
Like,
last question after this as well.
just because obviously you just completed your first marathon. One, you completed it last week. There's another YouTuber I know, and it's been a kind of thing. It's like, okay, that can be a mental challenge for myself. Something I'd like to do is complete a marathon. I'll send it to the boys. It's either a marathon or like the like those obstacle course, like 5-10 Ks.
Tough Mudder.
Tough
Mudder.
Mudder, and
Yeah,
there's
yeah,
those
yeah.
kind of ones. Tough Mudder's in the mud. I don't know if I can handle that. But there's other ones that are out of the mud. But those kind of challenges I'd look forward to, and I think that'll be a sick thing to do. Just for example, someone that can run maybe 5K now, how long do you think the training will be until they can run a marathon? Someone who's not very fit, or not even fit at all, really.
Yeah.
It's like a 6-month thing if you're on an average.
Less than that, I reckon.
Yeah?
If you really lock in. I could only really do 10Ks before I started training the marathon. It took me 2 months to train for, really. So you could probably do it in 4 months, I reckon.
And marathon, you'd recommend people to do even once in their life. As a mental and physical feat, it's like it's an accomplishment, man.
It's cool to be able to say you ran a marathon.
That's true.
Sounds
It's
amazing.
yeah,
really.
yeah. It's definitely something I would recommend. It's a really selfish life though. Like if you think about it, you're able to dedicate all this time to training and you got to be out there 4 or 5 days a week, and then there's recovery as well onto it. So you need to be able to dedicate a lot of time to it. So if you are young, for those listening, like now is the time to do it. Life is only going to get more and more intense, wife and kids, so on. Like it's the time is now. But it's a selfish life, and I would recommend doing it if you can.
Yeah, it's an accomplishment. It's one thing like now in your youth, it's things to tick off. You know, like going to the gym, for example, besides hitting 2 plates, there's not a lot of accomplishments that make you feel that good in the gym. So doing a marathon will be up there.
Yeah.
Damn it.
Yeah.
I need I want to ask about recovery. You just said there, what's some things you do for recovery? Is it just like slower runs? Do you do ice baths? Do you do cryo chamber? What do you?
Yeah, the best thing for me for recovery is actually movement. I've found, especially as when I played footy, like that was the main thing. Is the next day going out and actually doing something, whether that's just a walk or even a really slow jog. I find that makes me so much better. That'll kick me on like 4 days, get me at 4 days ahead. 2 big ones, obviously sleep as well, like staying off the beers if you can after a game or after a big thing, and then that will actually affect your sleep, or you'll have good sleep. And then also your diet, so high protein after a run or after a workout. That's just going to...
My protein, what's the code?
Yeah, my protein, use code Louis MP. And
5% to me.
Here we go, my new manager.
I need that commission there.
Yeah.
On the nutrition topic, I'm always curious to ask our guests this question. I haven't asked it in a while. What's your go-to coffee?
Oh, strong skinny cap.
Nice. And second question, if there was one book you'd recommend, which book is that?
Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor E. Frankl.
No. I didn't expect that.
We need to go for a coffee.
Strong skinny cap and Man's Search for Meaning. No, I loved that book. I went through a breakup 2 years ago now.
Here we go.
I can move on. Everyone tune in. The podcast is real now. And I was rattled by it. She broke up with me, broke my heart. Best thing to have ever happened to me, because I was like a young little whippersnapper, and then actually kind of formed into an adult after that. But reading that book really helped me, and I read it first. I'm not the best reader, so then I listened to it for the second time to really get it in my head, and that taught me great points of just like I'm very lucky.
Yeah.
Life is good.
100%.
You know.
It's one of those books as well that it's like it's so hard. I find it hard to recommend because of the title. It feels like so cliche. You know what I mean? It's like I don't know. It's just like you're just chucking it on the person. But what's funny and why I got excited when you mentioned it is because the other day, because I've been on like a reading rut. I haven't read in a while, and then the other day we were getting a guest on. And then after, there was this like concept that I was thinking of that was brought up in the Man's Search for Meaning book. I went back into it and I opened it up for like the first time in like 3 years. And then it's so nice to see, you know, the notes, not the notes that you leave, like the things that you highlighted.
Yeah.
And then you're curious to ask yourself, it's like, what made me highlight that, like in that moment type of thing. But there's so many like powerful concepts in that book that might have applied to, like, let's say Viktor Frankl being in the Holocaust or whatever, but you can apply it to yourself as an everyday person. You know, like the whole idea of like mentality, look, like the way you approach obstacles, just everything, you know. Yeah,
it's such a beautiful book. I would recommend it to anyone, to be honest. It's an intense read. Like, it's a lot. Yeah. I like listening to it the second time. I was like, oh my God, this is like almost a bit morbid, but I would, it's so good for growth.
Yeah, 10 out of 10 book. It's the only book that I have in a hardcover as well.
Yeah, nice.
Like that's how much I rate that book. You know?
So, he recommended it to all of us. We've read it.
Yeah, there was a point where I was just recommending. I was like, shut up, bro. Just listen.
But it's hard, man, because the thing is, you might rate a book like 10 out of 10. You recommend it to someone, they're like, yeah, it was all right. And you're like, man, you didn't get the essence of it.
Yeah,
like,
to be honest, I read it and I didn't think much of it really. Like it didn't connect with me that time when you recommended it.
It's probably one of those books, and probably is why you related to when you're going through that breakup. It's like it's a time and moment type of thing.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. It's not like a read where you pick up. It will just be words to you if you can't sort of like resonate with it. You know.
Yeah, 100%.
Trying to think, what was I going through at that time? But let's not talk about that.
There will be part 2 breakup episode.
I know what I was going through, but any last final questions before? Do you have anything else?
Nah, off camera, I'll probably ask some nutrition questions. I don't want to sound like a geek.
For sure. Well, thank you guys for listening to this podcast. You guys know the drill. Make sure you like, share, subscribe. Before we end it, where can they find you?
Louis Phillips 12 on Instagram.
100%. Same thing for TikTok?
Same thing for TikTok, yeah.
Beautiful. All right, we'll see you guys next week. Peace.